This is the Eye for an Eye channel. Welcome to today's show. If you're not familiar with what's going on in Congress, which of course is really nothing, I'm talking about the show going on in Congress, you should be, because it's important for herding mechanism reasons. Now, everybody should know who the new Speaker of the House is, because he's third in line to be president, or second in line, however you want to look at it. You know, if something happened to Biden, then it would be Kamala. If something happened to Biden and Kamala, then it would be this guy. And of course, we need to be familiar with this because we need to watch how they're playing their game, because this is all staged and rigged, and these people are moved in position like chess pieces. And the whole purpose of putting certain people in certain spots is for manipulation purposes, to herd the masses. And they have selected a guy who goes by the name of Mike Johnson. And Mike Johnson is going to tickle your ears, just like some of these other politicians tickle the ears of Christians, because he's playing the role of your evangelical Christian who will do whatever is needed to support the land of bagels that we have to support, of course, because if we don't support it, then we can't all be enslaved. So of course these puppets in Congress all support it, which if you actually look this guy up, it's the first thing you'll see. And people go, I don't understand. Why would they pick a Christian? If these people are in control, why would they put Christians in there? Well, how do you think they herd Christians? These people are Jesuits, okay? They are Jesuits who are in the order, in these secret societies, and their job is to bring the Christians along the way they want to herd them, which is unconditional support of their own demise and their own demise of their own people, because this is what's going to occur now. This is the phase. Everybody sees the Muslims going to battle with the bagels, and they don't realize that this is really a battle against Christianity. And now the herding has begun. So Mike Johnson was strategically placed in this position of power to tickle your ears, because Mike Johnson's going to talk about all the talking points that he's going to need to talk about to lure Christian support in. And remember, these people are influencers. And once they influence you by saying, well, we're not going to allow this stuff in school, we're not, you know, it's amazing that we even have the debate, right? He's coming forward. He's one of these people that's against, you know, kids picking genders, et cetera, et cetera. These things are not things that are open for debate. You're either sane or you're insane. Okay, but they need these things in place because people want to get back to sanity, and they're hoping to get back to sanity, but they're never going to get back to sanity because these people are just working you and hurting you. In reality, the civilians should have thrown all these people out of their positions of power if the second they even brought up in Congress if men should have can have babies or not, and if children should be allowed to castrate themselves. They all should have been thrown out the door. There should have been mutiny. There should have been an uprising, but there wasn't. So what we have now is this man is put in this position, right? Now, what are the things that he's against? Well, he's against funding Ukraine, right? The Ukraine. And I want to make it clear when I discuss Ukraine and how it's really just a CIA hub over there, I have sympathy for all the civilians. I have sympathy for civilians everywhere, because what's really happening there is civilians are being wiped out. And the idiots out there believe that civilians are being wiped out by Putin. They don't realize they're being wiped out by their own government and our government, okay? And all these idiots out there do is they hear this and then they regurgitate it about Putin and we need to fund them. And they don't realize what they're really funding is eventually our own deaths and our own demise. But this guy is against funding that situation over there, which is a check mark, right? To lure people in. He's against the insanity that we've allowed them to even discuss in our classrooms, right? Check mark. What else is he? He's pro Bagelville. So here's the announcement of Mike Johnson, and make sure you stick around because you might be saying, well, I don't really care about Mike Johnson. This stuff doesn't matter to me. Oh, you will care because I'll show you the connections biblically to some of the things with this guy and his fraternal order. Now, I'm not saying this guy's mentioned in the Bible, but you could see these people and how they're all really, well, Canaanites. But take a look.
He is the fourth candidate Republicans have nominated since Kevin McCarthy was ousted from the role. So who is Mike Johnson? We've done a little research for you. He was first elected in 2016, representing a Republican part of north and western parts of Louisiana. And then he has risen through the ranks, chairing the Conservative Republican Study Committee and then holding the position of House Republican Conference Vice Chair. He sits on the Judiciary Committee, the Armed Forces Committee, and the newly formed Select Committee on the Weaponization of the federal government. He is a constitutional lawyer who used his skills to argue keeping Donald Trump in power even though he lost the 2020 election. He objected to changes in voting procedures during the COVID-19 pandemic, calling those changes unconstitutional. He is among the 147 Republicans who voted to block the certification of Joe Biden electors, and he has a solid conservative voting record. He voted against bills to establish the January 6th Independent Commission, the infrastructure law, and the stopgap bill to avoid a government shutdown on October 1st. His voting record has earned him an A-plus rating from Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America. He voted against a bipartisan law to codify same-sex marriage, and he authored the legislation called the the Sexualization of Children Act in 2022. Critics have called it the federal Don't Say Gay measure. Now, he has been in Congress for 7 years. By comparison, other speakers had more experience. Kevin McCarthy had 16 years experience before becoming Speaker. Nancy Pelosi had 20, and Paul Ryan had served 16 years before securing the top job. Now, ahead of today's vote, members of Congress said they knew very little about Johnson, and some Republicans said they had never even met him. Johnson spoke this morning about his role as Speaker and what he hopes to accomplish.
The job of the Speaker of the House is to serve the whole body, and I will. But I've made a commitment to my colleagues here that this Speaker's office is going to be known for decentralizing the power here. My office is going to be known for members being more involved and having more influence in our processes and all the major decisions that are made here, for predictable processes and regular order. We owe that to the people.
So Mike Johnson, it's a big announcement. Of course, they've been waiting to put their person in place. The first thing that he's going to pass and do, of course, is going to be funding and unconditional support for the people that he works for, which are the people that control our government over in the land of bagels. But I want to give a little background on Mike Johnson, because if you look up Mike Johnson, the first thing you'll see is how Mike Johnson just was in Jerusalem, and Mike Johnson is an evangelical Christian, and Mike Johnson, let's be real, it's probably not even his real name, and he's just the kind of Christian that is supposed to scare the left and comfort the right? They consider him an extreme right-wing guy, which is obviously not really real, because none of these people are really Christians. So he's been confirmed as the new House Speaker. And if you don't know, in 2020, he visited Jerusalem's Temple Mount as the fulfillment of a biblical prophecy. His election is the most significant victory to date for evangelicals in D.C. This is how all the headlines read, right? His election is the most significant victory to date for evangelical Christians. So the seesaw, right? Remember I was talking about the seesaw? Now Christians are going to start thinking, oh, we got a Christian in there. Now we're going to sit on Ukraine. We're going to go fund it. They don't realize it's one and the same. They don't realize anything that's actually going on. You can see the guy standing in front of a sign, of course, with Jim Jordan, just another one of these guys that pretend to be, they do nothing. They just sit there and run their gums to lure you into the trap. They talk about all this stuff with the one-niner, the outbreak. They never deliver. They never do anything because they're not supposed to. They're supposed to herd you. This is all psychological. So here he is in front of a sign. Blessed are those who bless this specific place, right? Yeah, but let's interpret that. Blessed are those who bless that specific place. Right, but that specific place became a place in 1948. Does anybody want to mention that again? Okay. Oh, no, they don't want to, because they don't want you to realize what's happening here. So when we look at Mike Johnson, okay, this is where it gets funny. Because remember, all one has to do is your own research. Whenever these people are put in positions, I recommend to people, I'm like, just look them up. Look where they went to school. Look if they're in fraternities or secret societies, because everybody knows of Skull and Bones, but nobody really understands any of the actual frats. There's still fronts for this. What do you think? Somebody started a frat at a university and it was just like, hey, we're going to start a frat because we all want to get drunk and do keg stands. They start frats because they recruit through these fraternities. The initiation process in these fraternities are very similar to Freemasonry. Now, it doesn't mean they're all the same. Doesn't mean they do the same exact rituals, but this is how they recruit. So Mike Johnson, let's take a look at his early life. You're going to find this interesting. He went to Louisiana State University, LSU, which is a big school. And he was a member, this is right of his Wikipedia, of Kappa Sigma fraternity. So you might say, well, what is Kappa Sigma? I've never heard of it. What does that matter? Why would I care what Kappa Sigma is? Kappa Poopa, Kappa Dippa? Well, Kappa Sigma, for those of you who are wondering, according to the traditions of the fraternity, Kappa Sigma evolved from an ancient order, known in some accounts as Kirjath Sefer. Okay, so does that sound familiar? Kirjath Sefer? Well, if you're not familiar, Kirjath Sefer was a location, and it was a location. Who lived in Kirjath Sefer? Who was it? The Canaanites. The Canaanites lived there, right? And doesn't that just sum it all up for all of us? Because the original pre-Israelite inhabitants were called Canaanites, and that's Kirjath Sefer. And if you remember in the Bible, okay, the people Let me just read it to you, okay? Let's go to, where should we go here? Want to go to, we'll go when the Israelites conquered Canaan, okay, according to the Hebrew Bible. Joshua chapter 15, verse 16, and the book of Judges, chapter 1, verse 12. And Caleb said, he who attacks Kirjath Sepher and takes it, to him I will give I don't know how to say the name, but Ashah, my daughter, as wife. Okay, so why did God command? Oh, because Kirjath Sepher was a location which is where the Canaanites resided, right? So of course you would make a fraternal order about Canaanites. Now they wouldn't directly call it Canaanites, because why would they? But they're pretty much saying, hey, we're Canaanites. That's what this is. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody that goes through these organizations has a clue about it, because I get it. I've seen kids who were in frats. You know, I went to college. I was never in a frat. Biggest waste of time ever. I actually was more busy spending time paying people to do my papers for me than actually doing them, or, of course, paying people to sign the sign-in sheet for me than actually showing up, because it's all a waste of time, because there was no trades to actually learn there. But our parents made most of us go to college because we were told it's the right thing to do and it's how you get a job. But in reality, you have to really hustle. You have to figure things out. And if you aren't a Mason and you aren't a member of these secret societies, you're not going to get the greatest job in the world. Okay? Like they tell you, all you got to do is go to college. It's just another indoctrination method. So anyway, not about me, but I know people and came across people, and I have friends from high school, and, I don't talk to anymore, who are in frats, and they, for the most part, don't have a clue. They looked at it as a place to go drink and meet girls, etc. But where do you think they recruit people like Mike Johnson from? What do you think they initiate them with when they do these traditions? Well, they do initiate them with these things. And then these people seek further enlightenment, right? So they go from fraternal orders, and once they leave college, they're likely to join Freemasonry. And they're likely to join other secret societies. Thus, their careers will start to take off. Not because they have a diploma from the Louisiana State University, because they have networked through their time at Louisiana State University, learning about secret books and secret words and secret codes and secret handshakes and secret hieroglyphic, all this other crap that's all Egyptian worship, just like Kirjath Sepher. And then they move. Where? Freemasonry. Where? There. They go to another school where they get a master's degree, like DeSantis and etc., right? They end up going to Yale and they learn at Skull and Bones. And that's how all this works. It's a complete infiltration of our entire government, our entire business, structure, our monopoly of corporations. It all comes through secret societies. That's why we've all got shafted. Okay, and I'm not here complaining because I want what they have. My problem has become the fact that they're trying to control my life and what I say. Specifically, like every time they censor what I say, it just motivates me more, pisses me off even more. Right? Nobody wants to be told what they cannot say, what their opinion should be. But they're obsessed with meddling in our lives because they want us to live like they do, because they want to do these disgusting acts out in public, which is why they've begun normalizing these things with kids, et cetera, et cetera. So Mike Johnson might play the role of a Christian, but you're going to see how the Jesuits operate now, because with this conflict going on, the conservatives are going to think that there's a rise in conservatism, right? And they're going to see, smash down with the hammer. Take away the rights of the people who've packed the fudge. Take away the rights of the LB community, right? And while I'm not, again, the whole purpose of this is to herd people and then to strip rights and laws. So the same way that those people, the packers of fudge, have stripped rights away from all of us to speak, it has to happen both ways. All these rules and laws are going to apply to all of us in this enslavement. The libs out there who listen and make fun of me and all that stuff, they think that they're going to be free of all this. They're like, fine, if it's going that way, that's great. Screw these people. Oh, it's happening to you too, okay? So the placement of Jesuits in these positions of power is important, because they're going to ruffle their feathers and they're going to do stuff to their rights, even though Christians aren't out there going, these, and I'm not saying as opposed, obviously you all know my stance on all that stuff. But I really don't care what these people do, because they have to face God and be judged by God. However, I don't want them near anybody's kids, et cetera, et cetera. But if they want to do it in the privacy of their home, I'm not for it. But they're going to have to deal with God at the end of the day, right? But what they're doing is grooming, they're conditioning, they're doing all these other things that I have a problem with. So everybody out there obviously is going to see this guy placed in power, and then all his positions. You'll hear it blasted on the media now the next couple of days, how he's anti this community, anti that, anti-marriage, et cetera, et cetera. So people are going to be excited about it because they're so sick and tired of seeing the other people get put on a pedestal while we're all getting slumped down. But they don't realize that it's psychologically being done to destroy the system from within. So while this seesaw goes back and forth, eventually it goes back and forth and somebody pushes the dynamite and it implodes. So they need to push this one way, push it the other, push it back, push it forth. Okay, it's a herding mechanism. And Mike Johnson is going to cater now to conservatives and Christians by telling you that we shouldn't fund what's going on in Ukraine, which we shouldn't, because what's going on there is not what everyone thinks, because it's clearly not what's, what they're telling us isn't what's going on. There's civilians that are being executed. The same thing is going on all over, okay, including here in America very, very soon. The way that it's happening in those other countries are going to tell us we're at war, and they're just going to wipe people out. So he's going to tell people that he wants to stop that, right? That's been a talking point. Everybody is like, why should we pay our taxes if it's going to this, which is understandable. He's going to come in and say, well, we're not going to fund them anymore. I'm not going to approve any funding there. But what I will do is approve funding to Bagelville, and he'll garner more support for these people. That's what the Jesuits do. That's why all of these Jesuits who are tax exempt, who have their churches, who have to follow a set of rules, all support them. Now, they think they're dumb, most of them, and they support them blindly because they think that quote, like you saw him standing next to, right? That sign that he's standing next to. They all believe that. Blessed are those who bless them, right? And think about how insane this all is. Blessed are those who bless the synagogue of Satan. You think God would actually say that to us? Right? They named it a state in 1948. Let's make that clear. That specific place that they're trying to garner your support for was created in 1948. So then people go, that's not true because it's in the Bible. That's because it's not a literal piece of land that's being discussed. They made it up to trick you. They made it up to deceive you. Look it up for yourself. Look up who is behind even the creation of it. Lord Rothschild, the same one conservatives say is responsible for the New World Order. Oh, he's responsible for that, but he doesn't have his hand in that, right? The Balfour Declaration. Or you can just look at Truman, our president, right? Who had his hand in it, who's one of the highest rank. He said his greatest honor in life was being a 33rd degree Mason and a high ranking Mason, above even serving citizens as president, because of course, that's not treason. I mean, what needs to happen here is all these people need to be thrown out of their position, which can't actually happen, right? They'll do what they did, which is why they did the PSYOP on the 6th of January, because they know that people are going to get suspicious and they don't want them to throw them out. So people just need to ignore, really, at this point, the government and realize that they're not working for us. Really what should happen is people should just start a different government. You could use the same structure and just actually vote people in, right? We should hold them accountable. Every vote should be handwritten. Like I said, cameras should be on it. We want to count every single vote. Okay, that'll never happen in a trillion years. They just say I'm a conspiracy nut. They'll just silence me. They'll just delete channels, et cetera, because this is actually thinking that's very simple. They don't want you to simply think. That's one of the reasons they don't want me out there. It's because when you think clearly and you think simply and you figure out ways to solve the problem, well, that's a problem to them. They want you to react violently. They want you to talk about January. These are all part of their plan. They're the ones who created all these events. Okay? They know that if anybody says stuff like that, they'll just throw that word out there, like they throw out the cost word, the hollow, or they throw out the 11th of September. Right? These are all done by design. So really, what should occur here is that these people have all committed the highest act of treason. And everybody should just go, hey, are they members of secret societies, even fraternities? And if they say yes, they should say they should be thrown out of office, because that means that they have special interests in other groups and they have interests in these groups and organizations. But people just go, oh no, they're in that because they wanted to drink and get high in college, and that's why they're in it, and they're just hanging out with their bros. No, that's not why. They've infiltrated and taken over. And as citizens, we should say, that's treason. You're in another group and organization, which you have in your oaths put above everything else, which by definition is treason, because you're not serving the people. You're serving not just your best interest, you're serving the synagogue of Satan, which is what Mike Johnson is doing. So, conveniently, at the same time that all this stuff starts, they decide to put Mike Johnson in. This is how they move their puzzle pieces around. Because you have a conservative and again, it's not a real conservative, because none of these people in Congress worship Jesus Christ. They pretend to. How else are they going to lure your support? Right? It's the same as Beyonce. They go up on stage, they go, thank you, God. Oh, and people are like, they thank God. You're just judging them. You don't know them. They're thanking their God, Lucifer. They're taught that Lucifer's God. They call him God. Okay? Why do you think they're always talking about light? Do you read the stuff? No, they don't, obviously. But I'm saying, do people out there read some of the stuff, like from Pike's book and some of the videos I've done showing you the way that they talk about the light bearer, et cetera, and how they invert scripture? Okay, if these people didn't come out and say they worship Jesus, and what does the Bible tell us? There'll be people that say they worship me and don't. There'll be people who say my name and I don't know them, right? That's what these people do. And why do they do it? They do it to lure you and herd you. If you knew that they were all Satanists, there'd be an uprising against this. And the great deception is occurring because Christians are being lured into this. And Mike Johnson's going to play a pivotal role in that. So the Joel Osteens of the world, all of these promoted ministers who don't deal with any type of censorship, etc. And why don't they? Because they're all on board. They tell you that your best friend in the whole world that you could rely on is the same people who in their teachings talk about killing us, right? Does that sound like a good friend? No, it doesn't. But they don't want you to know what's in their books, which is why they don't want people like me around. But I'll keep trying my best to get the word out. So this is strategically done. This is how the New World Order works. And nobody's going to say boo because nobody questions anything, which is, the world we live in. Everybody's compliant. Right? You see Mike Johnson, you're like, oh, Mike Johnson, sounds great, right? First thing you should say is, oh, what's his background? What's his role in this game? How are they going to use him to herd people? Oh, the first thing you see is the first piece of business for Mike Johnson is to pass unconditional support for the land of bagels. Then you see articles like this, new House Speaker Mike Johnson, he's an evangelical Christian. He holds ties to Bagelville's far right. Louisiana Rep. Mike Johnson described his 2020 visit to Jerusalem's Temple Mount as the fulfillment of a biblical prophecy. Right? It's his fulfillment of a biblical prophecy. Maybe he's the Antichrist. His election is the most significant victory to date for evangelicals. So do you feel like you're winning, ladies and gentlemen? Right? What's funny, too, about this is they talk about censorship and they talk about all this other crap going on. And they do nothing about it. So everyone just puts their hope in them. And they're like, they're gonna get us back on YouTube. And they're going to get more rights for Christians. And they just run their gums while time continues to tick towards this New World Order and Agenda 2030, which is really now Agenda 2025, which we could tell because they've sped it up. Look how they're log jamming event after event, right? You don't think that there was going to be a little bit of a wait after the outbreak with what they're doing? Nope. Jamming it all in. Nobody's suspicious? Nope. Why aren't they suspicious? Because they're not thinking. Not just the fluoride, everything else that they put in their bodies, but they're on autopilot because of their technology mainly. We don't have anybody thinking about how to stop this. I'm thinking about it. But these people are just actors. They're placed here now. We all know that. That's very clear. But watch your Christian friends out there. They'll be like, oh, but this new House Speaker, they call it water cooler talk. Oh, this new House Speaker, Mike Johnson, he's a real Christian. And he's going to he's going to take money away from Ukraine. He's going to give it to the bagels. And that's what we need, right? And he stands by a sign deliberately positioned so that he could tell people out there, those who stand with them, you have to stand with them. Blessed are those who bless this specific place that was created in 1948, right? And then you go, let's look into the guy. He went to LSU. Okay, well, it's not, okay, whatever. It's a pretty prestigious school, but I guess he's got to go. Oh, he's in a frat. All right, well, everyone's in a frat. What's a frat? Oh, it's Kirjath Sefer. Oh, okay, what's the frat named after? Oh, it's named after the Canaanites, right? But Christians out, and then you could bring it up to Mike, right? Someone will bring it up, right? Of course they won't bring it up, but say I did, right? Mike would say, it's a frat, bro. It's just a frat. You're thinking too deep, right? This is how our society works. Now, you're thinking too much. You're listening to too many conspiracies, right? No, I'm actually reading directly between the lines. It's right in front of us, right? Oh, you say, oh, I'm not a Canaanite. There's no Canaanites in today's society. Oh, right. No, they're only all the people in charge. They're all the synagogue of Satan, right? Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. It's always right in front of us, is it not? Now, I'll continue to do my best to get information out to everybody, but we all know I'm dealing with censorship. So please do me a favor and subscribe to my other channel now, United Uprising. I have to build that out, and I need your help doing it. So if you like my content, I recommend you subscribe. Otherwise, I'm going to be gone. Okay, and the less people that sub to the channels, the less point, I guess, of me being here. Because, it just shows that nobody wants to see it anymore, which is perfectly fine. All good things come to an end, and I don't know if this is a good thing or been a good thing, but we clearly see the writing on the wall. I'll continue to be on the website Uprising Revival in the case that people don't sub to new channels and help me build them out. And that'll be a way you can get my daily content. Uncensored, of course, which, people should be over there checking out the video I did if you're sub right now about the libel. It's so important. I mean, if you like vampires, maybe go learn about where they came from, because they came from these same people who are victims. And the reason that people always went after them, because they literally do that kind of stuff with youngsters, right? So I recommend you join the website. Learn real truth. The knowledge you'll get from the website, not just from the videos that I put up, but from everybody else over there sharing their knowledge and sharing information, is more than you would ever get at a college university for $3 a month. So definitely check it out. I thank everyone for being here. The links are below. God bless all of you as always and your families.